Oh, Jake, come on. Let's go, come on.
What are you doing? Why are you doing this?
A part of me for a long time fought it myself. I wanted to know, did I advertise myself? Was I just that ugly? What did I do to deserve it?
This is a woman sitting in front of a camera with her face uncovered, telling the world about the night a stranger pulled up on her outside her job and would not let her go.
I crossed back across the street. This car just pulls up and cut me off.
Reed says the man who approached her was 31-year-old Jeremy Asbury, a man she'd never met before. Reed says she rejected him and he drove away. Hours later, her shift ended.
As soon as my feet got out the parking lot and hit the asphalt, he pulled up and swung the door open.
And this is what that same man was doing the very next morning, with half the police department parked on his street and a gun in his hand. His name was Jeremy Keith Asbury, and the crazy part is that years before any of this, he was the one telling the news he was innocent, sitting down for interviews, talking about how he wanted to speak up for people who get accused of things they never did. His pops was a magistrate, and his mom worked in corrections. On paper, this man came from the law, and the town had already written him a redemption story before the whole thing turned on its head. The part that is going to get you is not the standoff, because the standoff is just the ending. The part that is going to get you is everything that happened in the years before it, when the system had this man in cuffs over and over again and kept letting him walk right back out the door.
Oh, Lord. Here we go. Can y'all please relax with the inboxes? Like, stop blowing my messenger up. When you talk to me on live, I'm live right now. You don't even have to talk to me on Messenger. Your fantasy is fulfilled right now, here in front of you. Yes, oh yes, it's me. Yes. Stop that man. Every time I get on this y'all got want to start blowing the inbox up. I'm not gonna respond. I don't want to talk. I'll just leave.
But before we get into Jeremy's story, let's start with this story. Before he was a case number in Columbus, Georgia, Maurice Vaughn Jackson was a rapper who went by Lil Nuke and had been chasing this thing since he was a kid. He got the name from his mother when he was little, and he says he never even found out why she picked it. He just carried it. He grew up in Columbus playing football, dancing from about 9 years old, running around the school being fresh and being popular.
So then what led up to the music?
My folks been around the music, like my uncle and them.
Yeah.
Been around the music. I've been like listening to their music, made me want, you feel me, like.
Yeah.
I want to do it too, but.
He dropped a song called Grow Up around 13 years old, and it went crazy in his city. And that is when he understood that this could actually be something. Then in 7th grade, something happened that ended up shaping everything he ever recorded after that.
But I got shit.
No.
Yeah, I got shit in my sleep. 7th grade? 7th grade, yeah.
And when you ask him later what kind of music he was trying to make, the answer is one word.
So right now, when it comes to music for you right now, do you feel like you have a preference of music that you like to make?
Okay.
Yeah, why so?
Because I've been through some shit.
Yeah, you gotta get it out.
And I don't like to show it. Like I just like to express it over the mic. Like.
He graduated from Creekside High School in May of 2013 and signed his first record deal around 17 or 18, which came through his mother knowing the people involved. And he ran with it because this was the only thing he had ever wanted. He was putting out records on SoundCloud under ATM Lil Nuke, and one of them called My Niggas Wildin' pulled more than 60,000 plays. He got features with Cash Out, Pee Wee Longway, and Quando Rondo. He worked with local producers like DJ Cashflow and was building himself up in the Columbus scene, shooting videos and doing radio.
Man, everything good, bro. Singing, you rapping, man. Tell me how you got started in this industry, man. Talk to me.
Really being under the Cash Out.
Yeah.
Just grind his way, learn from him, we grind hard, really.
By 2021, he was 26 years old, still in Columbus, still recording, working a regular job at a solar farm to keep the lights on, the way most independent artists have to. He legally owned a 9mm Glock and had never been arrested for anything in his life, no record at all. People who knew him from the scene described the same person over and over, somebody outgoing and full of energy who could turn a room up. And his SoundCloud is still sitting there today, full of comments from people saying rest in peace and calling him an icon out of Columbus. He was 26 years old and still grinding, still shooting videos, still trying to get out of his city with a microphone, which is the part that makes the rest of this so hard to sit with. At that job, he met a woman named Channa Powell, and the two of them started getting close. In her own words to police, they were not officially boyfriend and girlfriend yet, just increasingly intimate, which is that stage where something is clearly going on, but nobody has put a title on it. The problem was the man she was leaving behind. Quincy Wade was 26 years old and from Columbus too, and one community account says he and Maurice actually went to middle school together and used to play basketball, which tells you these were not strangers from opposite ends of the map. There is almost nothing else public about this man. No job, school, career, or anything. Everything you can find about Quincy Wade in the public record comes out of one relationship and what it turned into. He and Channa had been together on and off for years in something everybody involved described in court as toxic. And when I say toxic, I do not mean arguing and blocking each other. I mean things that should have put somebody in a cell a long time before any of this happened. Trial testimony laid out that Wade once shot Channa in the thigh during an argument, and that on another occasion, she stabbed him after he kicked her. Both of them had made police reports on each other over the years, and not one of those reports ever turned into a prosecution. So by the time we get to September of 2021, everybody involved is walking around with a history that the system already knew about and did nothing with. On top of all that, Channa was 11 weeks pregnant with Wade's child, and she already had another child by him who was around 7 years old. So no matter how done she was with this man, he was not going anywhere out of her life. Here is how the last few days played out. On September 4th, 2021, Powell started getting harassing text messages from Wade, and according to homicide detective Sherman Hayes, those messages showed that Wade already knew she was seeing another guy, and that he knew where she had been and what she had been doing. She ignored them and hoped he would let it go. Testimony also described him as being in constant contact, following her to work and showing up places uninvited before any of this. On September 5th, they got into it over the pregnancy because Wade started questioning whether the baby was even his, and that was the moment she ended it for good. Prosecutors quoted her messages in court, and they were about as clear as a person can be. She told him, "I'm done with you." Then she followed it with, "I do not want you involved in my life." That was 2 days before the shooting, and it did not slow him down one bit. And this is the part that should stop you, because none of this was hidden. He was not sneaking around. He was texting her things that made it obvious he was watching her movements. On September 6th, which was Labor Day, Channa and Maurice spent the afternoon at a cookout with his family. Afterward, around 12:30 in the morning, they went back to her friend Rickel Polk's one-bedroom apartment at Patriot Place Apartments on Buena Vista Road, apartment 174, with her 7-year-old in tow. Maurice was planning to spend the night there too, and the second they walked in that door, the phone started going off again, because Wade was texting and calling, and his messages made it clear he knew she had spent the whole day with Maurice's family. She ignored every one of them. Around 2:20 in the morning, the calls and the texts picked up hard, and she kept ignoring him and hanging up. Roughly 10 minutes after that, he was outside the apartment. At around 2:30 in the morning, on September 7th, Quincy Wade started banging on that front door and calling out. Nobody answered, because Powell had asked Raquel to tell him she was not there. Then they heard him move around to the patio, because Maurice had stepped outside earlier to smoke and left the sliding glass door unlocked. Wade had been to that apartment before and had even been given a hidden key at one point, so he knew exactly how to get in. He came through that door uninvited with a 9mm Smith & Wesson on him. Everybody inside ran into the one bathroom in that apartment, and Maurice climbed into the tub and got behind the shower curtain. Rickel got so scared she ran out of the apartment completely and hid outside. That left Channa in that bathroom, pregnant, in a corner, with the man she had just cut off coming down the hallway. He kicked that bathroom door in, and according to Powell's testimony, he put the pistol to her head first, then moved it down to her pregnant stomach and told her he would kill her and the baby.
Did Mr. Wade say anything at that point? What did he say?
That was when the shower curtain came back, because Maurice had been standing in that tub listening to a man threaten to kill the woman he was with and her unborn child, and he came out with his Glock in his hand. 16 rounds went off in a bathroom you could barely fit 3 people in, roughly 8 from each man, at a range of a few feet, until both pistols jammed with a spent casing stuck in the chamber, leaving bullet holes in the walls and through the shower curtain. Nobody in that room could tell you who fired first, including Channa, who was squeezed into a corner. She later said she assumed it was Quincy only because his was the gun she could actually see. When the noise stopped, Maurice was on the bathroom floor with 4 gunshot wounds, and the one that killed him went straight through the center of his chest and his heart, with the others catching his arm, his back, and his hip, while Wade had been hit twice through the legs. Powell followed him out of that bathroom, asking why he came there and why he did this, and he told her Maurice had shot him too. And then she did something most people would not have the nerve to do, which is she snatched that pistol right out of his hand with the magazine still loaded and threw it across the living room so he could not use it again. Then she ran back in, got on the floor, pulled Maurice into her arms, pressed a towel on the hole in his chest, and called 911 while she screamed for help. She testified that he took one deep breath and passed away right there in her arms. The deputy coroner pronounced him dead at exactly 3:22 in the morning, and he was the 50th homicide in Columbus that year.
On September 7th of 2021 at approximately 2:30 a.m., Quincy Wade shot and killed Maurice Vaughn Jackson. That will not be in dispute in this case.
Testimony shows Wade entered the residence his ex-girlfriend, Shayna Powell, was staying in uninvited. Wade then kicked in the bathroom door both Powell and Jackson were hiding in.
The evidence is going to show that as they're having this conversation in the bathroom, Mr. Wade is facing towards where Mrs. Powell is, which is kind of in an area behind the bathroom door, across from the bathroom mirror. And they're having this conversation. All right? And at that point, Mr. Wade is shot twice by Mr. Jackson, who comes out of the shower curtain. Unbeknownst to Mr. Wade, doesn't even know he's there. And twice. All right? And in response to that, Mr. Wade fires rounds to defend himself.
Wade went back out the same patio door he came in through, bleeding the whole way, and left a blood trail that ran through the hallway and out to his Dodge Charger in the parking lot. He drove to the apartment he shared with his roommate Xavier Stevenson over on Rubin Street, woke him up, and Stevenson took one look at those wounds and told him he had to get to a hospital. Now, there are hospitals in Columbus, but they drove about 45 minutes out to LaGrange instead, and Stevenson testified that going to LaGrange was Quincy's idea. Then when they got there, Stevenson made up a whole story for the staff and for LaGrange police about how they had been in Atlanta and Wade got shot trying to buy weed and somebody robbed him.
Rosalind, before both sides rested their case, state's witness Xavier Stevenson took the witness stand, taking sole responsibility for the story he says he made up as to why defendant Quincy Wade ended up in LaGrange after being shot in Columbus by the man he's accused of murder. Family from both sides hearing this testimony today and sharing their thoughts with me.
My whole feeling is really, I'm just numb to the whole thing. I've been waiting 2 years plus for this moment.
Maurice Vaughn Jackson's mother, Cleopatra Vaughn, is going through emotions as she listens to evidence in the shooting death of her son. Cleopatra heard state witness Xavier Stevenson say he drove the defendant, Quincy Wade, to the hospital the night both men exchanged gunfire.
I told him the story I came up with that we was just gonna say like we was coming from Atlanta. I don't remember the exact story what we exactly said we were gonna say, but the main like we were coming from Atlanta and I wanna say he tried to buy some weed and somebody robbed him. But like I said, that was my idea.
The jury also heard from Columbus Police Sergeant Thomas Hill. The state asked Hill about the interview they did with Stevenson and whose idea it was to go to the LaGrange Hospital.
He stated that it was Quincy's idea to go to the LaGrange Hospital.
During cross-examination, Kendrick asked Sergeant Hill about his interview with Stevenson and what he learned in that interview.
And is it true that you learned during that interview that Mr. Jackson was in the shower when it happened?
That's what Mr. Stevenson reported had been said to him by Mr. Quincy.
Both sides resting their case. Cleopatra Vaughn says after hearing all the evidence, it doesn't matter if her son first or not.
That lie fell apart fast because Columbus police already had a homicide with a blood trail running out of the apartment, so they alerted area hospitals to watch for a man coming in shot. Officers took Wade into custody right after treatment and arrested him that same night on murder charges. Stevenson later admitted the Atlanta story was his own invention, but he also told police the thing the defense would lean on for 2 years, which is that on that drive, Wade said Maurice had been hiding in the shower and shot first. Wade went before a judge on September 10th in a wheelchair, took the stand himself, and told the court that Powell had invited him over, that he only used the side door because nobody answered the front door, that he never forced the bathroom door, and that Maurice fired first. He got no bond and sat in the Muskogee County Jail for 2 years waiting on trial. That trial started September 25, 2023, in front of Judge Bobby Peters, with 8 women and 4 men on the jury. And the framing was unusual from day one. The state, led by Chief Assistant District Attorney Don Kelly, argued this was never about who pulled the trigger first, because under Georgia law, a man who walks into somebody's home, armed and uninvited, and starts threatening people, gives up his right to claim self-defense at all. Kelly told that jury Maurice would have been within his rights to shoot Wade the second he came through that patio door with a gun in his hand. The defense, run by William Kendrick and Mark Shelnut, ran the opposite play, arguing that Wade came over to have a conversation, had no clue Maurice was even in that apartment, and got ambushed by a man who came out of a shower curtain and put 2 rounds in his legs. So everything after that was just a man trying to stop from getting shot. And they went hard at Shanna, arguing the whole gun to the head and stomach threat never showed up in her first interview and only appeared later after Wade had already stood up in court and said self-defense. And then the defense rested without calling a single witness of their own and without ever putting Quincy Wade on that stand. Maurice's mother, Cleopatra Vaughn, sat through all of it, and afterward, she said the thing that cuts to the middle of this whole case. Wade's mother, Jolynn Wade, saw it completely differently and put the blame on the woman in the middle. The jury went out at 1:15 in the afternoon on September 29th, then came back into open court for about an hour to review some of the video evidence. They asked the judge several questions about what the legal terms actually meant and returned around 7 that evening with a verdict of not guilty on malice murder, not guilty on felony murder, not guilty on aggravated assault, and not guilty on home invasion. The only thing they convicted him of was the lesser misdemeanor of criminal trespass, which carries a maximum of 12 months. Since he had already done about 2 years in that jail waiting on trial, he got credit for time served and walked. Kendrick said afterward that the jury locked in on who injected violence into the situation once shots started, and that there is no way to dial it back after that. So a man walked into an apartment he was not invited to at 2:30 in the morning with a pistol, and a 26-year-old rapper who was never charged with anything a day in his life ended up dead on a bathroom floor, and the total legal consequence was a trespassing conviction that was already paid off. Then, in May of 2025, Wade got booked back into the Muskogee County Jail on a probation violation. And if you are sitting there thinking that first story was just one wild jury on one wild day, so now let's get back to Jeremy and to the question of how a man from a family full of law enforcement ended up with SWAT on his lawn.
Shut up! Shut up! Who that is? Who the fuck you cheating on me with? I told you, call 1-800-CHOKE that. I told you I'm gonna this. I told you. Shut up! Shut up! Ah!
It's my last live. Might be the last time y'all see me alive. Kid in the house. Police got my house surrounded. I wish I was playing right now, but this is very serious. I'm about to come and pick my child up, so let me get off here and get ready to surrender.
On the afternoon of August 29th, 2023, a rapper ended his own life on Facebook Live after forcing himself on a homeless woman. That afternoon, the police arrived at a quiet home on Columbus Circle in Charlotte, North Carolina, only to be met with a barricade, a live stream, and a chilling threat of ending his own life.
Jeremy Keith Asbury was born December 21, 1991, and he came up around Richmond County, North Carolina, in the Ellerbe and Rockingham area, which is a small country town where everybody knows your last name before they know you, and your people's reputation follows you around whether you want it to or not.
Jeremy. That little Fisher dance. What is this? What is this? Oh Lord, so finish that, Caleb. No.
And his people had a serious reputation because his father, Jerry Asbury, served as a Richmond County magistrate, which is a judicial officer, the kind of man who signs warrants and sets bonds, and his mother, Renita Chambers, worked as a corrections officer in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg jail system.
He grew up with connections to Richmond County, North Carolina, a small, tight-knit community where people often know each other, where families have history, and where reputations carry weight. And Jeremy came from a family with a reputation. His father reportedly served as a magistrate, a local judicial figure, someone trusted with upholding the law in the community. His mother reportedly worked within the correction system. These are not small things. They shape a child. They shape how a child sees the world, how the community sees that child, and what expectations form around him as he grows up. When you grow up surrounded by law enforcement and public service, you grow up knowing how the system works.
By his early 20s, he had the outline of a regular life going, working full-time at Purdue, which is the poultry plant that employs a whole lot of people in that region, and picking up part-time hours at Walgreens on the side. He had joined the local NOC and had been initiated into a Masonic lodge about a month before everything changed. Then came July 11th, 2015, and the first allegation that would follow him for the rest of his life. A woman in Fayetteville, about an hour and a half away in Cumberland County, told police she was walking near the Russell Street and Eastern Boulevard area early that morning and accepted a ride from a man toward an apartment complex. She said he never took her there and that instead he drove her out to a wooded area near downtown, pulled a silver handgun, put it to her head, hit her in the head with it, put on a condom, intimately assaulted her, then demanded money from her and threw her purse before pulling off. In the documents summarized by reporters at the time, she said the man kept telling her he wanted the money. She later picked him out after gas station surveillance caught the vehicle, and a Crime Stoppers tip pointed police in the same direction.
It was here in this parking lot off Beatties Ford Road on Monday where Sangria Noble saw the clear signs of a
I said, hold up. Something ain't right.
Her friend, who is homeless and frequents this area, told Noble the details of what happened to her. Police say the 47-year-old woman was put in a car at gunpoint, driven somewhere else, and at gunpoint. Later dropped off in front of the building where Noble works.
Black eye, bruises on the arm, gash in the head. So then I turned back and looked at him and said, what did you do to my sister?
Jeremy told a completely different story, and he told it loud and in public. He said he stopped at a gas station in his burgundy Cadillac around 6:30 that morning after staying with a friend in Fayetteville, and that he went inside to pay. And when he came back out, there was a woman going through his car. He said he pushed her out of the vehicle and drove off, and that was the whole interaction, and he denied any kind of sexual contact at all. He called the accusation bogus and said it was her word against his, and went at the woman's credibility directly, asking what it meant if a drug addict's statement is more valuable than an average taxpayer. Fayetteville police got warrants for first-degree assault, first-degree kidnapping, and assault with a deadly weapon, and they picked him up around July 22nd in Rockingham. His bond started at $175,000 and then got raised to $250,000. Police executed a search warrant on his body for samples, taking cheek swabs, a blood sample from a finger, and about 50 hairs and 50 pubic hairs. He said the whole process felt awkward and rough, but that he went along with it. He ended up doing about 80 days in the Cumberland County Detention Center, and while he was in there, he found out his girlfriend was pregnant with their first child. Then on February 10, 2016, the whole thing just stopped because an assistant district attorney named Kara S. Hodges dismissed all 3 charges, and the reason written on the paper was review of the file and unsuccessful attempts to contact the prosecuting witness. They could not reach the woman who made the complaint, so the case had nowhere left to go. He also said the state had offered him a deal before that, a plea to solicitation plus registering as an intimate offender, and he turned it down flat because he said he did not do anything. Now this is the part the whole video hangs on, so let the reporting say it, because a lot of people mix this up, and some of them mix it up on purpose.
A dismissal is not the same as being found innocent. When a case is dismissed, it means the charges are no longer being pursued. It does not mean the court looked at the evidence and said, "This did not happen." It does not mean a jury heard every piece of testimony and returned a verdict of not guilty.
That difference is everything, because no jury ever heard one word of that case, nobody got cross-examined, and no evidence ever got weighed by anybody. The state simply could not find their witness, and without her there was no case to run, so it went away. To be fair though, that is also exactly what it looks like when a man really is falsely accused. And that is the honest tension sitting in the middle of this story. A dismissal swings both ways, and for a long time that town walked through the side of the door that said he was innocent. The local paper ran a whole profile on him where he talked about the experience being scary but character building, about wanting to become a motivational speaker for people who get wrongly accused, about how there are programs for victims and almost nothing for the accused, and about his family writing him letters and coming to visit him. That was the redemption story. It got published, and people believed it. Then came the years nobody wrote a feel-good article about, because in 2017, in Mecklenburg County, he was facing robbery with a dangerous weapon. Then, around 2020 in Cumberland County, the same county that had cleared him 4 years earlier, he was facing possession of a firearm by a felon, assault on a female, assault with a deadly weapon, and assault by strangulation. And then in 2021, over in the Iredell County area, it was communicating threats. Public arrest records list other matters stacked on top of those. More gun stuff, traffic stuff, more assaults, and coverage later summed that whole stretch up as roughly 3 felony charges and 3 misdemeanors across about 4 years. And the outcome, over and over again, was short jail time and probation. I need you to read that list one more time, because assault on a female and assault by strangulation sitting in the same file is not a random combination. Anybody who works around domestic violence will tell you that strangulation is one of the strongest signs that a man will eventually kill somebody. So that is not a bar fight charge. That is a warning light with a siren attached to it. And every single time it came up, he walked right back out.
Someone who should be facing real consequences walks out of a courtroom with probation and a warning. And life continues. Jeremy's life continued too. Through 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, years rolled by. Each year brought new chances for something to change. New chances for the right person to intervene. New chances for Jeremy to choose differently. New chances for the system to hold firm. Some of those chances were taken. Many were not. The people in Jeremy's life, his family, his friends, those who loved him, were living alongside someone who was, by the evidence, struggling. Maybe they saw it. Maybe they were in denial. Maybe they tried to help and did not know how. Or maybe they were afraid of what they would find if they looked too closely.
By the summer of 2023, he was 31 years old, staying in West Charlotte on Columbus Circle, and had spent almost 10 years walking right along the edge of real consequences, without ever falling in. That was until the victim came back again to testify against him. Her name is Nakia Reed. She is a mother, and at the time, she was 47 years old. Reporting described her as homeless and familiar with the Beatties Ford Road area of Northwest Charlotte.
A Charlotte woman says she was beaten and raped by a man she didn't even know. The attack happened last August.
The suspect then took his own life after a 6-hour standoff with police. The woman sat down only with WCCB Charlotte's Trish Williford to recount the day that changed her life forever.
A part of me for a long time fought in myself. I wanted to know, did I advertise myself? Was I just that ugly? What did I do to deserve it?
For more than 5 months now, Nakia Reed has spent most of her days in a state of confusion and despair.
I cry a lot.
The 48-year-old Charlotte mother decided it is time to tell her truth in her own words, with her face in plain view for the world to see. She describes a horrific crime that happened on a hot August night. It began here in this parking lot on Beatties Ford Road and ended at a house in West Charlotte with a red door. On the night of August 27, 2023, Reed was working at this convenience store on Beatties Ford Road. At one point in the night, Reed took a short break and stepped outside.
As I crossed back across the street, this car just pulls up and cut me out.
Reed says the man who approached her was 31-year-old Jeremy Asbury, a man she'd never met before. Reed says she rejected him and he drove away. Hours later, her shift ended.
And on the night of August 28, 2023, she was working her shift at a convenience store out there. People who are unhoused get targeted for exactly that reason, because whoever is targeting them assumes nobody is going to look for them, nobody is going to believe them, and nobody is going to follow up on it. And whoever assumed all that about her got it completely wrong. She stepped outside on a break that night, crossed the street, and a car pulled up and cut her off. And the man driving it, she says, was Jeremy Asbury, a man she had never seen a day in her life. He came at her about paid intimacy. She told him no, and he drove away. Hours later, her shift ended, and the second her feet came off the parking lot and hit the asphalt, he was right there again, which tells you he had gone somewhere and come back and waited for her to get off work. What happened next comes from her own public account, and it is heavy, so brace yourself. There was a fight, and he punched her, and then he pulled a gun and forced her into the vehicle at gunpoint while she was still struggling with the doors, trying to get them open. He drove her behind a Dollar General and violated her back there. She got out of that car and ran barefoot with her clothes half off, banging on doors and screaming for somebody to open up in the middle of the night in a city where everybody was asleep and nobody came outside for her. He caught her, hit her in the head again, and put her back in the vehicle, and her blood stayed in that car. From there, he drove her to the house on Columbus Circle, the one with the red door.
He opened the door with the key. So I said, okay, this is house. So from that point, something say, start leaving DNA.
Reed says with her bloody hands, she discreetly touched everything in her path. And then
he me from about 1:30 to 4 o'clock that morning. And I kept saying, okay, you done. I seen him dozing off. He took his legs and interlocked them into my legs with the gun still beside him.
Reed says Asbury fell asleep, and she laid there for hours waiting for the sun to rise. After spending a horrific 13 hours with a stranger who she says attacked and terrorized her all night, Reed finally convinced him to release her.
And according to her account, she was violated repeatedly in that house over several hours running deep into the early morning. She said he was talking to her the whole time as she belonged to him, saying things about wanting her to have his baby, which is somehow the most disturbing detail in the entire case. And this is where you need to understand exactly who this woman is, because while all of that was being done to her, she was quietly building a case against him. She deliberately left bloody handprints on surfaces around that house, so investigators would have DNA to collect later. She kept herself from washing, kept track of where she was, prayed, and waited for her moment, which means she was gathering evidence in the middle of the worst night of her life, because she had already decided that she was going to live through it and make it count for something. After what one account puts at around 13 hours total, she talked him into letting her go, and he drove her back near the store where the whole thing started, and she walked inside to get help.
On the front end, maybe it would have prevented situations like this.
Some housing that may have lessened her chances of being abducted and victimized and harmed, because she would never forget this for the rest of her life.
A woman named Sangria Noble found her. Noble worked nearby and had helped her before with services, and when she saw the black eye and the bruises on her arm and the gash on her head, she went straight at the man who was still in the area and asked him, "What did you do to my sister?" Then got her to the police and to a hospital where a violation kit was done. Detectives from the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department's Intimate Assault Unit worked it through the night and into the morning, and by then they had warrants for multiple felony charges. Shortly before 8 in the morning, on August 29th, they pulled up on Columbus Circle to serve them. He locked himself inside the house with a gun and would not come out, so officers tried talking to him, then detectives tried, then they called SWAT. Then they brought in crisis negotiators, whose entire job in life is talking a man out of the worst decision he is ever going to make. His own family members came out there and tried to reach him, and a community agency got involved too. For 6 hours, that whole street belonged to the police, with neighbors watching from behind the tape and nobody telling them a thing. And somewhere in the middle of all that, Jeremy Asbury opened up Facebook and went live for about 4 minutes, telling everybody watching that this was his last live, that it might be the last time they saw him alive. He said the police had the house surrounded. He said he wished he was playing, but that this was a very serious matter. He mentioned that he was waiting on somebody to come get his child, and he was ready to get this over with and turn himself in. He was not getting ready to turn himself in.
It's my last live. Might be the last time y'all see me alive. Kid in the house. Police got my house surrounded. I wish I was playing right now, but this is very serious. Matter come to pick my child up, so let me get off here and get ready to surrender.
On the afternoon of August 29th, 2023, a rapper ended his own life on Facebook Live after forcing himself on a homeless woman. That afternoon, the police arrived at a quiet home on Columbus Circle in Charlotte, North Carolina, only to be met with a barricade, a live stream, and a chilling threat of ending his own life.
And shortly after 2 in the afternoon, the officers outside heard one gunshot from inside that house, and SWAT went in with medics and found him with a self-inflicted gunshot wound and a firearm nearby, with nobody else in the building. He was taken to the hospital with injuries described as life-threatening, and he died there, which means he unalived himself rather than walk out that door in handcuffs. Crime scene search processed the house, and the department said the investigation into the assault stayed active and asked people to call in tips through Detective Crawford at 704-432-8477 or through Crime Stoppers. So there was never a trial, never a verdict, and never a day where Nakia Reed got to sit in a witness box and tell 12 people what he did to her and have them write down what they believed, which means he took that from her too. So she took the one thing that was left, which was the microphone, and months later she sat down with a reporter and did the interview, with her face showing and her name attached. She has talked about the self-blame that was eating her alive, about crying all the time, about not trusting people anymore, and about needing to know why it happened to her. And she said the words, "He broke me." She joined a support group, started writing, and has said that she forgave him, but she is never going to forget. She has been open about how she feels about the way his record got handled all those years. Sangria Noble called the whole thing a systematic failure, pointing to the lack of housing and support for vulnerable women on one side and the lack of mental health help for the man on the other. And honestly, the paperwork backs both of them up, because this man's file goes all the way back to 2015, and every single stop along the way ended the same way, with him walking back into the world. Which brings us to Georgia, and to a young father who had nothing to do with any of the 2 stories you just heard except for how his ended.
Mind you, it was a home invasion, but they drove him to the church parking lot and then 17 times. We heard the phrase, Chicago demons, but damn, why not just in the crib? Why drive him to the church and kill him?
Oscar Alexis Cruz was 28 years old, and everybody who knew him called him Oz, and he lived out in Lawrenceville in Gwinnett County, just outside Atlanta, on a street called Gin Blossom Circle. He had a wife, and more than anything else in the public record about him, he had a little boy about 4 years old named Hendrix, who his family described as his whole world and his mini Oz. His sister Jessica said he was more than a sibling, a light in our lives, a devoted father, and truly one of the sweetest souls you could ever meet, and that his smile, his kindness, and the way he loved his son would never be forgotten. He was not a public person at all, with no real social media presence, no arrest history that showed up anywhere in the coverage, and no history of beef with anybody. The only reason you know his name is because of what happened between 1 and 3 in the morning on July 22, 2025. And that is worth pausing on, because in all 3 of these stories you keep running into the same kind of person on the receiving end. A rapper with no record, a woman working a shift at a store, a young father with a 4-year-old. None of them were out looking for anybody. All 3 of them were just where they were supposed to be when somebody else decided to bring the violence to them. On the other side of this is Michael L. Golden, who the rap world knows as OTF Boona, and his background is what made it go national. Golden is a Chicago rapper and a member of Lil Durk's Only the Family.
crack. Shooter two in the chest and saw you spin. Hit him with four in the back. That's how you dust that back off. You ain't never caught shit, you ain't never let that mark off. You ain't never had no blood out, stop out of law. Did you scratch off? You ain't never did no hot shit, you ain't never go shit, you ain't never flip no truck.
And for years, his role in public was standing close to Dirk as the muscle, the one moving fans back and keeping people off him. There is a viral clip of him grabbing a fan who ran up on Dirk, and reporting says Dirk paid him $100,000 behind that one moment. He appeared on OTF projects and had a real name in that world without ever having his own hit record. He also already had a case in Georgia, and it is an ugly one. Because back in March of 2021, at the Cumberland Mall in Cobb County, Golden was accused of jumping out of a moving SUV in the parking lot and opening fire on another vehicle.
Yeah, the happened right in front of these restaurants here at Cumberland Mall. I talked to a couple of people who were eating dinner at the time they heard the They looked out and saw people running for cover.
Like, it was just like a very chaotic moment.
I saw somebody hit the ground, people running.
There were people running and zooming and everything.
And they closed the shutters in the restaurant.
Out in the parking lot of Cumberland Mall. Witnesses say they saw people in two cars yelling at each other. Then they got out, guns in hand.
We hear gun. I peek around. I see the guys coming out of the vehicle that's facing the same direction as us into the vehicle next to them.
Crystal Schmidt says they got back in their cars and sped through the parking lot while one man was leaning out the window, still shooting. In the melee, a man and a young boy, about 8 years old, were both by bullets, one in the leg, one in the foot. Police say the child was rushed to the hospital.
And the little boy was such a trooper that he didn't even cry. Nothing. He laid there while this really cool nurse came and bandaged him up.
And Cobb police tell me that while some of the gunmen did get in those cars and leave, others may have still been here at the mall when investigators arrived. At this point, they're still trying to account for everyone who was involved.
4 people got hit, and one of them was a 6-year-old boy struck by a stray round, and all 4 of them survived. Reporting indicates he was still on parole or still dealing with the fallout from that case when the events in Gwinnett County happened. Now, on the night in question, it started at a Waffle House. Police say Oscar met 4 men there around 1 in the morning, and according to detective testimony later, the meeting was about illegal substances, and specifically that Oscar was either going to sell to them or collect money for product he had already fronted them, which means he had given it to them on credit and was owed.
Oh yeah, you got Trey 5? Yeah, my bitch be smoking that. Let me see. Damn, you got that Zoba. How much is it here?
203.5.
200 Trey 5?
203.5.
No, I know 200 no Trey 5. Hello? Hey, dude, low, he talking about 200 Trey 5. What's up, man? How you doing? Yeah, he talking about 200 Trey 200 what? He ain't got no motherfucking bubble rub. $200 shit right here? He ain't got no motherfucking gelato. He ain't got no motherfucking Undertaker. He ain't got no motherfucking Kane. He ain't got no motherfucking. Oh, damn, y'all done got out on him. Damn, I ain't know.
Oscar Cruz was going to either sell to the individual or get paid back for some he fronted them.
That is the detail some people are going to use to shrug this whole thing off, and I need you to not let them. Because whatever Oscar had going on at 1 in the morning, nothing in that transaction came with a death sentence attached to it, and a 4-year-old does not lose his father over a debt. He got into their car with them, and instead of handling it right there, they drove him back to his own house.
Police say Cooper and 3 suspects met Cruz at a Waffle House on July 22nd at around 1 in the morning, where he got into their car. Investigators say the suspects became violent when they took Cruz to his home on Gin Blossom Circle, where the 28-year-old's wife was showering.
His wife was in the shower with no idea any of this was happening, doing the most ordinary thing a person can do in their own home in the middle of the night. Then they put a gun to Oscar's head, wrapped his hands up with duct tape, and made her get out of that shower and come downstairs.
His wife was showering.
His hands were bound with duct tape, and there was a male pointing at his head, and she was made to get out of the shower and come downstairs.
Investigators say they took around $3,000 in cash along with drugs and other items out of that house. And then, before they walked him out the door, they said something to her, and a Gwinnett County detective named David Early testified about it later at a probable cause hearing, And that one sentence is the reason this case has the name it has in the local press.
A detective said the suspects delivered a terrifying message to the wife of Oscar Cruz.
They told her this would be the last time that she saw her husband and to kiss him goodbye.
They took him out at gunpoint, put him back in the car, and drove him several miles away to the parking lot of Cannon United Methodist Church on Webb Gin House Road in Snellville. He had no connection to that church at all, no membership, nothing. And police said clearly from the beginning that there was no association between the victim and that church. It was just a quiet parking lot at 2-something in the morning. There in that lot, they shot him roughly 17 times, in the face, the head, the arms, and the torso, and then they left him lying there and drove off. At around 6 in the morning, somebody passing by saw a body in the parking lot and called 911. Now think about the distance in this story. Because he was alive when they taped his hands. He was alive when they walked him past his own wife and out of his own front door. And he was alive for that entire ride across the county. And everybody in that vehicle knew where it was heading, including him.
Mind you, it was a home invasion, but they drove him to the church parking lot and then 17 times. We heard the phrase, Chicago demons, but damn, why not just in the crib? Why drive him to the church and kill him? Was this his request? Did you take him to the church?
For the first stretch of this investigation, the public did not know a single thing you just heard, because all anybody had was a body in a parking lot and a police department saying almost nothing.
Been identified as Oscar Alexis Cruz. Gwinnett County Police say someone came across the 28-year-old's body yesterday at Cannon United Methodist Church right on Webb Gin House Road.
What actually cracked it open was cameras, because Gwinnett County is covered in them, and investigators started pulling footage and tracing movement. At some point, they got onto a charger connected to the case and followed it across the county from the neighborhood all the way to Webb Gin House Road, which is how the house on Gin Blossom Circle and that church parking lot became one single story instead of 2 separate incidents.
Investigators tracked the charger to Webb Gin House Road using cameras, where Cruz was found dead in the church parking lot the same day.
The first arrest came around September 3rd, 2025, when they picked up Raymond Cooper. The charge sheet on him reads like somebody emptied the entire Georgia Criminal Code onto one page, with malice murder, felony murder, home invasion, kidnapping, armed robbery, aggravated assault, aggravated battery, false imprisonment, and a firearm count. At his probable cause hearing, his defense attorney pushed back on the state's case, and the point he made is one worth keeping in your head for the rest of this. The judge found probable cause on all the charges anyway and bound the case over to Superior Court, and Cooper stayed in jail with no bond. After Cooper came Javon Wilson, 26 years old, then Michael Golden, and then finally Dion Patterson, 28, who ran and had to be tracked all the way to Illinois before they brought him back to Gwinnett County around April of 2026. All 4 of them are now sitting in that jail without bond, while prosecutors put together formal indictments for Superior Court, and none of them has been convicted of anything in this case, and every one of them is presumed innocent.
LaDurk affiliate OTF Boona has been arrested for home invasion and aggravated assault of Oscar Oz Cruz. The murder between July 22nd, 2025, 1:33 a.m. to 3 a.m. in Gwinnett County. Oscar Cruz was bound with duct tape and 17 times during the robbery.
Now, once Golden's name hit the internet, everybody started theorizing, because his arrest landed right on top of the bigger storyline with Dirk locked up in a separate matter and all that back and forth in Atlanta. So people started saying this had to be tied into it. But one commentator who covers that world closely read it differently.
Like this is on some goddamn robbing the plug type. Like Boona damn near, you know, if this is really, you know what I'm saying, the case of what happened, everybody smash the like button, man. Double tap y'all screen, smash the like button. If this really is the case, I feel like this was some plug type shit. This was some running the plug.
And that is exactly what the case file describes. Because there is no war between rap camps in that paperwork, and no message about anybody's chain. Just a drug meeting used as an opening. A house they believed was holding way more than what they found, and a man dead over the gap between what they expected and what was actually there. That same commentator also put his finger on the money problem underneath it.
It do look like OTF, they having a money shortage right now. I ain't gonna lie, bro. It look like all of they having a money shortage.
A man tied to one of the biggest labels in rap, a man who reportedly got handed $100,000 for 10 seconds of work, was out here selling shirts online to keep something coming in, which is the whole illusion falling apart in real time, because the clout was real but the money behind it never was. There is one thing all of them have in common, and this is what I want to leave you with, because every one of these cases had paperwork that saw it coming. Quincy Wade had already shot Channa Powell in the thigh years before that night, and police reports got made and nothing ever came of them, so he was still free to walk through a patio door at 2:30 in the morning with a pistol. Michael Golden was accused of shooting a 6-year-old in a mall parking lot, and reporting says he was still on parole from that when Oscar Cruz got taken out of his own living room. And Jeremy Asbury spent 8 years walking out of courtrooms with probation and a warning on charges that included assault on a female and assault by strangulation. So what we are really left with after all of that is not the tools or the money or the clout or the follower counts. It is a fundraiser page for a funeral, a 4-year-old boy who is going to grow up on secondhand stories about his daddy. Tell me in the comments which one of these you think the system failed the hardest, and if you made it this far, go ahead and subscribe, because we are following all 3 of these through the courts, and there is a lot more still to come.